Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before we get into it with our guests here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Elizabeth Moline on the podcast. She's a physical therapist and personal trainer coming to us from my home state of Minnesota, which, it's always nice to have another Minnesotan on the podcast. And you will hear her accent periodically come out, just like you always hear my accent, and I get all the crap about it. But she's also a figure competitor, and she's here to share her health and fitness journey and just, talk all things health and fitness. But most importantly, she's our current guest. Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Well, normally I ask guests what the weather's like today in their neck of the woods, but since we are, fairly close to each other, I'm not even going to ask that. It's, sunny here, so hopefully it's like that there. But yeah, let's just jump right into it. Why don't you start off first by telling us, what really inspired and motivated you to get in shape and how that led to you becoming a bodybuilder?
Ooh, it started when I was a tyke. My dad would take me to the gym with him all the time. Yeah, so he got me in hockey when I was really young. Uh, yeah, Minnesota, right? You got hockey player, typical. Uh, started by playing hockey, going to the gym with my dad. He went to this little gym in town called XL Fitness, and it's like where all of his buddies hung out, all of his friends were there. So I just grew up kind of hanging around, and he taught me how to bench press and deadlift and squat, and I'm super grateful that he got me into the routine and habit of just working out. So I grew up playing hockey, played all the way through high school. By the time I reached my senior year and playing year round, I was pretty burnt out. So I decided not to play at Eau Claire, I could have played at Eau Claire, and I decided that I was just going to take a little break from playing hockey. Uh, and I actually took up running. I was a run. I know. I look back and I'm like, oh God, those years I could have spent building muscle, quality years down the drain. I did a couple half marathons, just because from hockey I have this need to be competitive. I love some type of competition. So I was doing some half marathons, and a friend at work actually said, you should try CrossFit. I think you would really like it. That's around the time when CrossFit was kind of becoming a big thing, and it turns out I was decent at it with the lifting. Terrible, terrible at any gymnastics movement. So doing the CrossFit workouts, I was having fun, but I had the most fun with the lifting, with the Olympic weightlifting. So I got more into the Olympic weightlifting. I started going to Twin City Barbell, which was in St. Paul in this super old school rec center. It was half of a boxing gym. It was like this, it was a super old, dingy gym, and it was amazing. I love that place. There were 6 platforms, barbells, the bumper plates, and then it was the wrestling ring, and that was it. And it was Roger Sadecki and this older gentleman named Charles, and they showed up every Saturday and Sunday. And I'm pretty sure it cost like $15 for a month membership. And it's like Minnesota lifters would just roll through and they would give their advice. And it was an awesome atmosphere and a really, really fun period in my training. And I started competing in weightlifting, and I did that for, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years. I ended up getting a partial tear in my patellar tendon. And I continued to lift because I was a couple kilos away from qualifying for USA's, which would have been a national meet. And that was like my big goal, was to go to this national meet. And I had this injured knee, and I kept lifting on it and kept lifting on it, and my lifts never really excelled. And so the last meet that I did, I was, again, the weight was on the bar that I needed to qualify for this national meet. It was on the bar, and I missed it. It was my third attempt. I missed the lift, and so from that point, I was kind of like, okay, I'm going to take a step back, and I'm going to go to physical therapy. And that's actually how I I got interested in physical therapy, being injured myself and having to work through that. And I'm actually not going for physical therapy; it's physical therapist assistant, which we get to have all the fun. We're the ones that actually get to work with the patients. It's a 2-year program. I wanted to go for physical therapy. Being in school for 8 years didn't sound super awesome to me. Uh, so I got involved with physical therapy, and at the time, I was super bummed. I was so sad that I couldn't lift heavy like I wanted to. And in my mind, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose all of my strength. I'm going to lose all of my gains. And I had a friend at Los Campeones who was like, try doing a bodybuilding workout with me. Let's do like a shoulder day. And I loved it. And so he kind of became like my training partner, and we'd have like Sunday fun day lifts and go like super ham on back day. And I was able to find kind of like a new outlet where I wasn't feeling broken every single time I came in to work out. It's like if you're continuing to squat heavy on a bum knee, it's just you're like going in, taking some ibuprofen, you're wrapping your knees, you're doing the icy hot or the tiger balm or whatever. It was nice coming in and not feeling injured and being able to move weight and trying new things. And then my body started adapting to that, adapting to a different style of training. And then I don't know. I think I heard from a couple people like, maybe you should try, doing a show. And all it took was a couple people and me being competitive. I'm like, okay, sold. You talked me into it. So I started working with a coach in October and started my first prep in May of last year. So I think it was during the first quarantine, or it was right before the first quarantine. It was either during or right before. But I started the prep, or maybe it was right after. Everything that year is just like a
Oh yeah.
massive blur.
Oh, I
Um,
basically blacked out from it. So yeah, I have no idea really what. Yeah,
Honestly,
yeah, really. Yeah.
yeah. So I started prepping for my first show in June of last year, beginning of June, and it was a roller coaster of a prep. It was all over the place. I was just, you know, thinking, this is going to be so fun. I'm going to step on stage. I did not realize, I did not do my research. I did not know what I was walking into. And it was a roller coaster. And I switched coaches a few times, and I fell on my face a few times and ended up at Red Cow and came to with like an empty box of cookies next to me, and like not like that happened a few times. I switched coaches. I wasn't ready for a show. I moved the show dates back. I ended up with the Santa Marias through a mutual friend who was like, maybe try talking to these guys. I think they could really help you. So I ended up with the Santa Marias, and that was like the best thing that could have ever happened. So even though it was an extremely rocky prep, and the last 5 weeks were just that's when I started working with them, was 5 weeks out. It was grind time. It was like you gotta pull it together, and we're really gonna like if you will they were basically like, we'll get you there, but it's gonna be work. Like we're gonna flip the switch. I'm pretty sure Stephanie's words were, we're flipping the switch on Monday. And I was like, all right, here we go. And that was the best decision that I could have made. It turned out really, really well. And since I've stepped off the stage in Iowa, Stephanie and I have had a plan, and we've just been executing that ever since.
Wow, that is so awesome. And I got to go back to the beginning of your story when you said that you were a hockey player, because I told her, like everyone else probably knows, that I played baseball, basketball, and football. And I always tell my parents, if I could redo it all over again, I would have just done hockey, because being in Minnesota, you got to play. And I went to Bloomington Jefferson too, so I mean, it's like you don't you got to play hockey then. So as soon as you mentioned hockey, I was like, I mean, I played pond hockey with the boys and stuff, but it's just not the same. But yeah, that is just such a great story. And I mean, going through all the stuff that you went through with like the physical stuff and the therapy, I always like to bring up that this is so much more of a mental sport than it is a physical sport. And people do not understand that at all. They always just think, oh, it's just them working out and stuff. But the mental journey is, 100 times more important than that. And it's so much more difficult. And how has this transition in your life to bodybuilding affected you mentally? Because it's one thing that I mean, I've always told people, like, if you can compete in a prep, you can do anything really, because just because of all the stuff that you have to go through in order to compete in a prep.
Oh man, I feel like I grew so much last year throughout my first prep. It's like you find out kind of what you're made of. It's you learn a lot about yourself. It's like when push comes to shove, you're capable of so much more than you ever thought. And I think that helps you grow as a person, and it it's definitely applied to other areas in my life. Um in school, in work, in, personal relationships. It's just um it's definitely applicable to other areas in your life. But you know, it's a mental game with weightlifting, because you have to be in the right mindset when you're walking up to a barbell with a new 1 rep max on it. And it's all, what I have found is that for me revolves a lot around self-talk. What is the voice in my head telling me? Because it's like if there's a super heavy weight on the bar, a new PR, and I'm walking up to it, and my brain is telling me, like, oh, that's really heavy. You've never done this before. I'm probably going to miss it. Versus if I'm walking up to the bar and I'm like, all right, I am going to keep the bar close. I'm going to be fast under the bar. I am strong. I've got this. I usually do really well. And it's the same thing with bodybuilding. It's like having the mindset of gratitude, I guess, and thinking like I chose to do this, because there are moments where you get hungry. Like you're hungry, you're tired, you're fatigued, and you have to get up and go to the gym for your second round of cardio. And it's really easy to just be crabby. It's really easy to get into that mindset where you're like, no one understands. I'm exhausted. No one gets it. But I am really lucky for my coach, and I'm really lucky for my teammates, because we have like a little Marco Polo video thread. And it just, the things that they say reminds me, like, I do this because I love it, and I'm doing it for the stage, and I'm doing it for a purpose, and it's only 4 weeks, and it's only 3 weeks, and so, just keep moving, keep chipping away, keep grinding. The community aspect of it, and the friends that I've made, and the team support is has been everything. But
Absolutely. And I mean, yeah, if you're getting in this lifestyle, get ready to, get inside your mind a little bit more than you normally would. And
yeah,
it's, you get some of those thoughts that you get when you're really dieted down. That's like, oh God, it's like, just turn my mind off for a little bit. But that's one thing that a lot of people struggle with. And me too. Like, even if I'm doing like cardio sessions where I got nothing to focus on, it's like, oh my God, what am I thinking? You got to really be at peace with yourself. That's really all I'm going to say. But I mean, one thing that I also love to talk about is genetics, because everyone's on social media and I hear this all the time. Oh my God, I want his arms. I want her abs. I want their back. I want to shake them down and just be like, you do not understand that you can only be the best version of yourself. Like, even if you do exactly what they do, you are not going to look like them, just because you don't know. First of all, some people are just those genetic freaks where, I hate them more than life itself, where I still have a buddy who he can eat 10 Snickers bars a day and he's not going to gain an ounce of fat, where I hope it's just God playing a cruel joke on him and he's going to wake up 400 pounds one day, but it hasn't happened yet. Fingers crossed, Charlie. I'm looking out for you. But whenever someone first gets started working out, they always have that one body part that really, really takes off, that they don't have to train as much. And they have that one body part that just lags behind. They have to train to oblivion. For me, my back really took off because I just I just always had a nice back, and it was for a lot of jobs that I did in college were like working in warehouses where you got a nice back, you quit, and I'm also 6'3" though, so my legs is just absolutely shot where I mean I could inject pure muscle into my legs and they wouldn't gain an ounce. I mean, it's just never happening. But what were those body parts for you when you were getting started?
The body parts that were already, like,
Yeah,
famous
well, yeah, yeah.
developed.
What was one that was really, really that you didn't have to train as much, and then one that you really had to just train to oblivion?
I Okay, so probably quads. My quads were okay. I played
She's a high.
hockey
I was
my
gonna say
entire
high. As
life.
soon as she said that, I was like, yeah, it's probably gonna be the answer, but you never know.
Yeah, yeah. But my glutes, non-existent. Not even there. Just yeah. So I never specifically trained glutes ever. And so when I was in weightlifting, I was so focused on snatch and clean and jerk that I kind of lagged on accessory work. And that's something that like really came to light when I started bodybuilding. Like my quads are very developed, hamstrings are okay, but glute strength is just non-existent. And I did have to do a lot of physical therapy for glute med, glute max to heal my knee. That was a big thing. And then my shoulders. I never trained shoulders. Everything that I did was really explosive and powerful and primary movers. And so it was like, smaller.
So what do you train for shoulders now? Because your shoulders are absolutely popping out. And I was gonna say, okay,
Oh,
that's one body part that didn't take
thanks.
off. It's like, what is she? Because seriously, every time I hear, because shoulders is the number one thing that we hear from women. That it's like that's the one thing I struggle with. So if I didn't ask you what you did, I would get so many comments of like, you're an idiot. Like I've been working my entire life to get good shoulders, and you get a guess with good shoulders on. So what does a shoulder day look like for you? Because I'm even gonna be taking notes right now.
Reps on reps on reps on reps on reps on reps on more reps. Uh, I love I love shoulder day. It's one of my favorites, and I have been told like take 5 days in between shoulder day. I do not do that. I train them at least 2, maybe 3 times a week. So it's like I'll definitely train just shoulders 2 days, and then sometimes I only do 1 rest day a week. Sorry, coach. And I'll train arms. And when I train arms, I'll usually hit like a front raise and a lateral raise. But my shoulder days, I usually start with my weakest point, which is my rear delt, and then I move to medial delt, and my front delt is the most developed, or it's like this, it's the strongest. It's my rear delt that really lacks, and so I like start with rear delt, and I try to push to failure on at least 2 or 3 movements. I try to do drop sets and push to failure, and I love having a training partner. So it's like if I am doing lateral raises and I'm getting the failure, you can get just like a little assistance on a few more reps. Um, and that's the one thing about being in Austin is I'm missing being able to train with my team, with people. So when I do get to train with people, it's extra exciting.
Whereas I'm the exact opposite, where it's like, leave me the hell alone when I'm training. I'm one of those people where it's like I'm in my own zone because yeah, that's my one time where I don't have to be so talkative and like talk to everyone. So literally, I had a roommate in college who wanted to train with me, and we did it like 2 or 3 times. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm sorry, this has just got to be my time where I just get to chill and relax. But yeah, it's there's so many different ways that you can. I mean, with shoulders too. I mean, that's the thing that I hate every single time is that, oh, I'm gonna go train shoulders. Oh, really? What part are you trying to work? The shoulder part. It's like, oh, there's actually 3 parts. So that I always gotta put that out there because so many people are just like, oh, I'm just trying to train my shoulders, and I was like, well, there's different parts to it. So yeah, you got to make sure that you're asking that too when you're looking for nice workouts for that. But I mean, on top of all this too, when you were getting into this sport, did you always want to be a figure competitor? Because I'm gonna be completely honest, when I saw your profile, I thought you'd be a physique competitor because you were a pretty big upper body. So I was like, oh, that's a physique competitor. But did you always want to do figure, or how did it come to be that you did figure?
I did figure because I didn't think I was big enough for physique, to be 100% honest with you. And the first show, or the show that I did, I won physique. So, um, if to be honest, to be 100% honest, I wish I could compete in both at nationals because I am really torn. I love the shape for figure. I love the shape, but I love the poses for physique. The poses are so much more appealing to me. I love doing a back double by. Um, yeah, I am the side try and side chest. Like I love those poses so much more. I love the routine, and I love kicking off the heels and going on stage barefoot. So, I'm gonna do figure this year, and I'm toying with the idea of moving to physique in a year. I'm taking so I have a game plan for this season, this on season, uh, this coming show, and what we're doing after that. But for sure, I will be taking a year off and I will be growing, and we'll see what happens from there.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you brought it up, and I was going to bring it up anyway. Where I mean, so many people do not understand that for so many of these competitors, posing is the hardest thing for them. I mean, it's harder than your working out. It's harder than your nutrition. What has your experience been like with posing?
Oh, okay. So I I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and I have some videos of when I first started practicing on my own. It is bad. It is terrible. I ended up being hooked up with Alicia, whose last name I should know and can't pronounce.
Young?
No, it starts with a K, I think. Oh, I feel so bad.
We'll figure it out. Yeah, we'll
I
find
should
it.
know
Yeah.
what it is. Anyways, she coached a friend at Los. My friend introduced me to her. I started working with her weekly, and that is the best thing I have ever done. The best money I have ever spent was getting a posing coach. Hands down, so when I said I wanted to do physique, she got super excited. She was in dance when she was younger, and she put together my routine for me, and I am still in love with that routine. So the next routine that I end up doing, the next time I compete in physique, she's definitely putting it together for me. So my coach Stephanie has helped me with posing. Crushing Limits has helped me with posing, but if it weren't for Alicia, I would have been a lost little puppy on stage.
What was the hardest aspect about posing for you? Because I mean, every time I ask that to guests, I get 1,000 different answers.
It's the mobility. I thought when I was done with weightlifting, or like when I decided to do bodybuilding, I was like, stability. I don't need to spend much time on mobility. It's fine. But when you go to hit your quarter turns and you're doing your side pose, if your chest is completely locked up, your delt is gonna look small, your lat's not gonna pop. So I've it's man, when I found that out, I was like, oh, I guess I'll get the lacrosse ball back out. Womp womp. I'm terrible. I'm a physical therapist assistant, and I tell people to do their mobility, and I won't lie, it's not my favorite thing to do.
Well, no, and if it was, I'd be like, okay, there's something wrong with her. So, but
Yeah.
hey, that's a given right there. But I mean, when you're walking on that stage, what is that feeling like for you? Because I mean, you've worked months upon months on this package, really, and I mean, just blood, sweat, and tears, and you finally get to show it off in front of all these people. What is that moment like for you when you walk on that stage?
Oh, I won't lie. I am an emotional little baby. And I may or may not tear up a little bit because you make so many sacrifices. You put so much time into it. You care about it so, so much. And it's like when you step on that stage, it's just like everything that you worked for is in that moment. And it's just kind of like you can hold your head high a little bit and be like, I made it, did it. Every minute of cardio, every meal, every, workout, every time I dragged myself into the gym and got through a workout when I had zero energy on a day when all I was eating was chicken. you know, chicken and broccoli, and those were my meals. It's like that all comes together and you have that moment of like, all right, we made it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't imagine what that feeling is like because, like I told her, I with that nutrition, I could never ever walk on stage. But a myth that I love to bust because so many people just don't understand that look that you present on stage is not sustainable. You're not going to be able to look like that 24/7. And Oh my god, the amount of times I've heard from people, it's like, "Oh, are they even competing anymore?" Where it's like, "Yeah, they're just in their off season," where people just don't get that. But what was that like for you when you first realized that, "Oh my god, all this hard work that I put into this look, I'm not gonna be able to maintain it, and I'm gonna have to put on some weight." And has it gotten easier for you, as the your career has gone on and you've done as now you're doing your second round of shows, you think it's gonna be easier for you to accept that?
So my first reverse, it is my first and only. It was my first show. Brutal, so brutal, such a mind game, huge mind game. Seeing your face fill back out, and you're indulging a little bit more. I had a hard time with sweets post show, and it's like the reverse is so huge, and I kind of look at it like when I was going into prep, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. It's the same thing with the reverse. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And I'm really hoping, so my first prep was super rocky, super all over the place. And this prep has just been like each week we knock it out. Right on track, right on track each week. And I'm hoping that it's just the same thing post show. It's like I kind of learned from my first reverse, uh, have that experience under my belt, and have some better, systems in place for coming out of this first show. But I do think that I have a different mentality around the food aspect of it. Um, when you don't have something for so long, you almost look at it like, "Oh my gosh, I'm never gonna have it again. I need to have like this is my only opportunity to eat this food." And I was going a little crazy, like I want pancakes, I want chicken and waffles. It's always the breakfast food, the donuts, the cookies. But in this prep, it's just very different. It's kind of like I have a different mentality. I know that the food is always going to be there. And what I want more is to step on stage knowing that I left no stone unturned. And it's going to be the same thing in my reverse. I want to keep the same mentality is, I want to check all of the boxes in order to set myself up for success in my off season.
Absolutely, and I compare it to, like, starting your own business where you gotta spend money to make money, you're gonna have to put on weight if you wanna put on muscle. I mean,
Oh yeah.
unfortunately, those 2 just go hand in hand, but, hey, you get to enjoy food for a little bit. But what were your friends and family's reaction when you announced that you wanted to be a bodybuilder? That's not normally what some people would hear from from a family member.
So some family was extremely supportive, and I had other family members kind of like, "Ah, you're gonna do what? You're seriously gonna stand on stage in a bikini? You're gonna do that?" Uh, which is fine. That's their opinion on things. But I got more support than anything. So my mom and my dad, they both have my back and support me. My dad gets super excited because he's like, "You're welcome. That's you're into the gym because of me. You're welcome."
Yeah, that is just so great because, yeah, we have heard stories where it's been like almost all negative, and that just makes it 100 times harder for the person. So having that support is just so great. But I mean, let's be honest, you're not the average looking woman, and especially being in small town Minnesota, where I mean, the moment that you walk outside, if you're dressed the way that you are right now, I mean, you're going to draw people's attention. I like to compare it to sort of like being a mini celebrity, where when people see something that's not of the normal, they're just like, "Oh wow, that's interesting." What has that been like for you? As you've gained more size and gotten more into bodybuilding, just realizing that, like when you walk out in public now, I mean, you're going to get a lot more of attention.
I don't know that I get a lot more attention. I think it's more or so right now. If I were to walk outside like this, people are like, "Oh, you must lift so much weight." I'm like, "If you only knew how weak I feel right now." No, when I don't look like this, that's when I'm strong. Right now, it cracks me up when people will like see my arms when I'm shredded and they're like, "Oh, you're so strong," or "You can help me move something," or "Can you help me, I know who I'm calling if I need something moved." And I'm like, "You have no idea how weak I am right now. I'm a weak little baby. The shreds are there, yes, but call me in the off season and I got you. But I think that's such a misconception. And honestly, right now, if I were to put a long sleeve shirt on, I look pretty tiny. I look, I look, it's so crazy when you're prepping for a show. It's like you you shrink down so much. And so if somebody doesn't know what bodybuilding is, if they don't understand what it is that you're doing at all, like when I go to work, I'm helping my parents with their restaurant right now, and I'll wear a long sleeve shirt and some pants, and I tell people that I'm in bodybuilding, and they go, "Oh, really?" Because I look pretty small when when I'm in normal clothes.
I was gonna say, everyone, this is the best thing ever. If you want to, if there's ever a bodybuilder that's getting on your nerves, and if she's ever getting on your nerves, any of her friends listening to this podcast, all you gotta do is just walk up to her, whisper in her ear, "Looking a little small today," and then turn and walk away, without even getting other pride. Just turn and walk away. Don't even say that. So I did that one time, and I think I mind f the guy, but no, at the moment that you're talking, like people are like, you don't know that you're a bodybuilder. I was like, yeah, I bet that's, but no, and I mean, yeah, people do not understand that as well too. Like when you get so lean for a show, it's not like you're not looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger. You're like down. There's a big difference between, especially being a figure girl as opposed to being like an actual, like in the bodybuilding division. It's different. But yeah, I mean, yeah, especially covering up. Where I mean, in Minnesota, who knows? It could be the middle of July, and you might have to wear a sweater anyway. So
Yeah.
with the weather that we have, so who knows with that? But I mean, cardio I hate more than life itself. It's the bane of my existence. It's my trigger word. I mean, just even thinking about it, my legs are shaking now. But when I say cardio, I mean like actual running. I could go on walks. I could do marathons walking, and I'd be totally fine. Sure, my legs would get all blistered up, but I'd be fine. But what is your relationship with cardio like? Because like you said, you did do running, which I think that's a mental illness in and of itself. Anyone that like anyone that voluntarily does that for a sport, I was like, okay, there's something wrong there. But hey, let them get their energy out. But what is your experience with cardio been like? Because unfortunately, when you do get into bodybuilding, you do have to sort of sign a deal with the devil where you do have to do cardio.
Low intensity, steady state is my jam. I don't I don't mind it. I don't hate it. It clears my head. It's me time. I usually don't text that much. I don't do phone calls. I am a weirdo and I don't really listen to like a ton of podcasts. I put music on and I have my own little dance party. And I probably look like a psycho when I'm on the stair mill and I'm jamming out to my favorite song of the week, but it's just my own time, and when I get done, I feel lighter. You've got the endorphins going, and I don't mind the cardio. There is a certain point where it's like, okay, we're still doing cardio. When you get up into those final weeks where you have hours, you're looking at hours to get in for the week, then, it does get a little long, but I love that sweet spot where it's like 45, 50 minutes, even 60 minutes. I'm cool with 60 minutes. It's like those 60-minute sessions where you have your own time. You are not answering to anybody and you can just kind of clear your head. I like those cardio sessions.
I mean, yeah, and unfortunately, they are very healthy for you, so everyone should go out and do it. As much as I hate to say it, but you did mention before too that you did CrossFit, and I mean, CrossFit is an enigma to me where I'm too tall to do it being 6'3". I mean, good luck having me do some of those athletic moves that, like, and like you said, like the gymnastic stuff, it's like good freaking luck with that. But the one thing that I do find interesting about CrossFit too is that, like, you see the bodies of like the CrossFit competitors, that like the elite ones, they look like they're so jacked and stuff like that. But if they ever do like a front double bi or something like that, like they don't have the bicep definition, or they don't have like the other definition. But do you think that overall training in CrossFit helped you when you got into bodybuilding? Even though, I mean, like, you're not gonna have that type of muscle look if you do in CrossFit.
Not even a little bit.
Yeah.
Not even, no. Endurance cardio, it got me in shape, and maybe I gained some strength from some squats, but the programming that I was doing, like a CrossFit gym, it's like it's so all over the place. Yeah, constantly varied is good, but if you have literally zero progression through your training, how do you expect to see any progress? you squatted once this week. Yeah, no, no, it's not going to happen. So, you're using your primary muscles so frequently. That's where these injuries come from, and everything is a very explosive movement. Whereas, like, in order to build muscle, you need slow eccentrics, you need controlled movements, you need isolated movements. So, to do a very explosive, quick movement for time, like, it's great for endurance, it's great for sport, but I don't think it helped me at all with bodybuilding.
Yeah, and that's, it's been like 50-50 when I've asked people that have done CrossFit before because and I mean, you're I'm not gonna knock it too much, but I mean, you're gonna be so injury prone too when you would do. I mean, it's just you're basically your body's a ticking time bomb when it comes down to that because it's like the human body's not meant to be doing that type of stuff that consistently. But I mean, let's be honest, sleep is the most important thing when it comes to this lifestyle and lifestyles in general. And like I told you before, I'm running off about 30 minutes of sleep last night. So, the fact that I'm just trying to pull it until about 10 o'clock if I can stay up for and then be dead because I'm a huge night owl. So like if I don't want to go to bed like at 6 o'clock tonight and then wake up at like 4 a.m. the next tomorrow morning, be like, okay, what do I do now? But sleep is just, I mean, it's so important, especially when you're a bodybuilder too. I mean, especially at the point in your journey that you're at right now. I mean, sleep is the end all. What's the type or what's the amount of sleep that you try to get? And is there anything that you do to get that recommended amount of sleep? Because I mean, so many people in this day and age struggle to find that proper amount of sleep.
Oh my gosh, it is so challenging. Sleep hygiene. Sleep hygiene is huge, and so many people neglect it. I've neglected it. Uh, I need to wind down at night. I definitely need to wind down with either like sitting down and watching TV and or like doing some stretching or reading or um I can't come home from work, which I'm working at my parents' restaurant, so coming home from work, I can't come home from work and go straight to bed. I need some kind of downtime before going to sleep. Um, oh man, I just okay. The one thing I do, I listen to a Calm app. The app is called Calm, and I'm like a small child. I love the bedtime stories. So on the app, they have different bedtime stories. You can play the story, and so it's like white noise. I like the white noise. I try to get at least 7 hours, 6 to 7 hours. If I get 8 hours, I'm so happy. I'm so much better. It's like when I lack in sleep, my workouts aren't as good. I'm not able to move weight. My cardio sessions drag, and I crave food so much more than when I'm, I'm well rested.
I mean, I'm basically drooling right now thinking about food right now because that's just me. But yeah, I mean, just I've always compared it to, I mean, one of the best feelings you'll ever have on the planet is after you get that long and hard workout in and you get that proper amount of sleep where you wake up feeling like a superhero. That is one of the best feelings, on the planet. So yeah, sleep is just so important. But also, I mean, just with all the stuff that goes in this lifestyle too, I mean, there's so many myths and misconceptions that people have about it. And we were talking about this prior too, that I mean, the number one myth and misconception that I love to bust on this podcast is that, there's still so many women that have that fear that if they walk into the gym and they do one dumbbell curl, they're going to become the Incredible Hulk. And like I told her, I'd spend my entire life savings to train with you then, and you'd be like the first ever trillionaire. But did you ever have that fear when you were getting started? Even though I know you got started early with your dad and he did the right way with you where it wasn't just, throwing you to the wolves. But even if you didn't have that fear, I bet you still hear that all the time. How do you like to respond to that?
Oh my gosh. So I was a personal trainer. I still train some clients. And I have had the reaction from women when I have talked to them about starting training. Well, I just don't want to get like too muscular. And they look at me and I'm like, you have no idea how hard I have had to work to get what muscle I have. You have absolutely no clue the amount of food you need to eat, the amount of weight you need to push, the amount of sleep you need to get, how many hours and how much time goes into growing muscle. It just doesn't work like that, and if it did, oh, man, I'm not sure I would appreciate it as much. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I honestly think that too. Like, if it all of a sudden, if it just came so much easier, I'd be like, well, if everyone can do it, then what's the point of even working out? Then it's like if everyone can get, yeah, that's, I mean, that, and yeah, so many people just do not get that, and it's just, yeah, I don't. I mean, luckily it has been getting a little bit better, but I still hear that every once in a while, and I remember in college, I was telling one of my friends, like, oh, you want to come work out with me? She's like, I don't want to get too big, and I said, listen, the purse that you carry weighs about like 20 pounds, and lugging that thing around 24/7, you haven't gained an ounce of muscle from doing that, so it's just all about, making people realize that that's, not the case. But if someone were to walk up to you and say, Elizabeth, we made the decision, you can change one thing about the bodybuilding lifestyle and everyone would go along with it, what would be one thing that you'd like to see changed?
One thing I would change about the bodybuilding lifestyle.
Or the sport in
Ooh,
general. We can do either or you can do both, whatever one you want.
that's tough. I don't know. What would I change? Honestly, I don't know that I've been in it that long to know what I would change.
For
Um,
me, I'll just do mine while you think then, like,
yeah,
the impartial judging that happens sometimes where, like, if you do one show and then 2 weeks later you do another, "We want little bit more of a leaner look for this show," or, "We want a little bit more of a fuller look for that show," and it's like, well, good luck getting them to change over 2 weeks. I mean, they can put on about 60 pounds, but it's not gonna be muscle in between those shows if you want a little bit more of a fuller look, and it's just that and the pay too. I mean, it's like, people do not understand. They lose money doing this, everyone. I've told people, it's like, if I could invent, you know, a sport where people pay me and they don't, and people where people pay me and I don't have to pay them as much as they like, where I don't even get how that's a thing where it's like, yeah, people lose money when they compete. No other sport has that where you lose money unless you're like one of the top bodybuilders on the planet, and then you get all the sponsorships and stuff, or if you're like a really higher up pro. But otherwise, I mean, like, you are losing money doing this. So yeah, if they could do it, if they could do it better like that too, I would definitely do something like
all right. Well, if we're not talking realistic, if
that.
I could do all of this for money,
That too.
then, my life would be made.
I mean, if it would be like a baseball player where, like, you get paid a certain amount for every bat or every at bat you have, like, if for every, like, curl you did, people would just throw out like $10 or something like that. Yeah, I mean, come on, like,
Curled
sign
all
me up.
day.
Curls all day. Are you kidding me? Yeah, absolutely. So,
Or
yeah,
like every time you prep your chicken,
oh yeah, yeah.
$20.
You just get like $50 transition to your bank account, like, online, and so it's like, yes, yeah, I did. So yeah, if
Every
only they
minute
could
of
do that.
cardio you get done.
I mean, I might be forced to do some, because I mean, I even remember telling an ex girlfriend of mine, like, the only time you're ever going to see me run is you have to be chasing me with a knife. That's like the only time that I'm really going to get on it. But, yeah, that might be the one time when I get on it. But speaking about curls, I do got to ask, because we asked about shoulders for the ladies and now it's, buys for the guys. What do you do for your arms? Because I have nice arms myself, but they're not like yours. So what does an arm day look like for you? Because I'm a gym bro where, I mean, I live off of arm day basically, where, like, let's be honest. I mean, guys communicate with their biceps basically. I mean, that's just how we are. So what does an arm day look like for you?
You guys do love your biceps,
Oh
you
my
really
god,
do.
it's just candy, really. Yeah, that's really all it is. Yeah.
So being in figure, I really focus on the X shape. I want the shoulders, the lats, the quads, smaller waist. I put the time in for cardio. I really hit the shoulders, really hit the lats or the back. Um, I honestly, arm days are few far and in between. And I think I train chest like 4 times a year. It's so bad. If I do an arm day, it's usually like a couple chest movements, and then I will do probably 3 tricep movements, 3 bicep movements, and then some shoulders, and then call it.
Okay, everyone knows. Yeah, telling me that she only works it
Sorry,
out like that much, and then she has arms like this. Like, good God. So I mean,
it's
yeah,
the diet. It
that
is the
too.
diet.
That too. And it's a lot of accessory work too that does it. People do not understand that. I mean, especially when you're training back and doing pulls and stuff, that's you're getting more of a workout in arms too than you are in back too as well. So people just do not understand that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, all the gym bros right now are like, wait, she doesn't do that every day like we do, where we do like 10 reps of like 70 sets like every single day when we wake up and we're eating breakfast, we're just rotating. But no, that's a whole different that's a whole different thing. But I mean, yeah, it's just this whole lifestyle is just so fascinating to me, because like all the stuff that you guys go through for just being on stage for that limited amount of time, where it's like when I was pitching on a mound, I was out there for like hours at a time, like 20, 30 times a year, and it's like you guys are out on stage. That just makes me gain so much more of a respect for what you guys do. But yeah, it's just, yeah, it is awesome. And I mean, totally, one thing that I do want to ask before we wrap things up is that, especially with COVID, toning down now, and things are starting to really like the mask mandate's gone for all the Minnesotans, and things for the summer are looking like it's going to be back to it. And I'm not gonna lie, put on my 5 to 10 COVID weight pounds. Like everyone did. Like even last night, I was thinking maybe I stayed up because I had those 6 Gatorades after I worked out. Maybe that wasn't such a good idea, but hey, yeah, it was that fruit punch stuff. I mean, you kidding me? That stuff is my cocaine, basically. So that's yeah. So that might be the thing now that I look back on it. But what advice do you have for people looking to get back in the shape of things? Because I mean, so many people. I mean, this is impacting people so much more mentally. Just like we talked about the mental aspect of stuff, but the mental aspect of being locked up for so much. And just think about me for 1 second, how talkative I am and how personable I am. Think about what this has been like for me. Are you kidding me? If I didn't have this podcast, I would be in my backyard just talking to myself, basically, like just walking in circles, and people would be like, oh, that's Ryan getting his words out of the day, basically. Like, so this is the one thing that's really been saving me during this pandemic. But what advice do you have for people just looking to get back into it? Because I mean, so many people are just, oh, I don't want to go back to the gym now because I put on all this weight and they just don't want to give it a shot. But what advice do you have for them just to get started? Because I've always told people, I mean, once you take that first step in the gym, it is almost impossible to walk out without getting a workout in.
Just start. Just start. Like, I think a lot of people do this thing where they're like, diet starts on Monday. Diet, it's like they screw up on Thursday and they're like, diet starts on Monday. That is Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You have so much time. That is a lot of time to mess up. And you could easily, after, like, let's say you have a meal that you weren't intending on having on Friday afternoon. You don't have to throw away your entire weekend because of one meal. And, um, you know, it doesn't have to be like the biggest, best workout of all time. Like, if you get in the door, you started. Like, just chip away at it and just start. And it's like you start moving your feet, and then all of a sudden your mind gets into it, and then all of a sudden it evolves and evolves and evolves. And the next thing you know, you've created a routine and a habit. And I just think it takes just doing it.
Yeah, I cannot tell you how many times I am the one of the worst procrastinators where I just compare it to like schoolwork when I was in, like high school and college, where like you have that one assignment that you think is going to take you 10 hours, and the next thing you know, you do it in like 15 minutes, and you're like, oh, wow, that was easy. It's the same with working out, where the whole day you might be thinking like, I don't know if I can get it in today. And as soon as you start, as soon as you slide that thing into the machine, and as soon as you get started, it just becomes so much easier. So yeah, just do that and if anyone else, if you don't have anything to do, just start walking. Now, I said walking. I didn't say do cardio. I said walking now because that's, the easiest thing to, really get things going. But yeah, and lastly too, I mean, I should have mentioned this when we talked about posing, but it totally slipped my mind. I told you just before the podcast is that for figure competitors especially, that lat spread is the hardest thing for so many of them, because that is the one pose where it's almost like you're born able to do it or you're born not able to do it. And some people that aren't able to do it, it takes them years to develop that. What was your journey like with that? Because I mean, we have heard some horror stories when it comes like, oh, it took me like 5, 6 years before I was actually able to even feel it.
I'm gonna sound like such a jerk.
Don't say it was the first time. Don't say it was like the first time and then you just oh, come on.
I never had a problem with it. I didn't. So when someone was showing me how to do like the lat spread, I was like, wait a minute. That is exactly what it feels like to have a barbell in my front rack. And so I was like, I took it, imaginary barbell, front rack, and then just brought my arms down. And I was like, oh, that feels the same. That lat engagement feels the same. And I don't want to jinx it. I feel like I should knock on wood. I'm going to step on stage and I'm not going to be able to hit a lat spread for the first time in my life. But I just, that movement or that, muscle engagement reminded me of what it felt like to do a heavy clean. And I never really struggled with that in particular. Now, a side pose and getting my chest to open up and rotation, trunk rotation, that is a struggle. But the lat spread is one that I don't struggle with as much.
So let me just summarize our entire podcast that we've done. For her legs were the one thing that really took off. Her part of her legs were. She doesn't train arms, and she didn't struggle at all with doing a lat spread. So, I officially hate her, everyone, and she just makes me feel, bad. But, hey, hey, for everyone like you who's just genetically blessed, we have one of those people where it's like, oh, it took me forever, and it makes me feel just a little bit better about myself. Now, I did talk to a 21-year-old yesterday, and that's whenever I talk to someone that's that much. I'm 26. Whenever I talk to someone that's that much younger than me, and they're in better shape than me, I'm like, okay, this is just BS. Like, I gotta go and hit the gym. But yeah, so is there lastly, before we wrap things up, if we were to talk to a year from today, where would you like to be at your bodybuilding journey, just in your overall life? What are some goals that you'd like to have achieved if we were to talk to a year from today?
I want to be graduated from school. That's my big one. So as soon as this season is over, it's going to be a focus of growing and school. So, a year from now, I want to be looking at getting back into a prep with a lot more muscle mass than where I'm at now, and I would like to be working in the physical therapy field.
That's awesome. Do you want to stay in the area, or do you want to move out somewhere?
I'm undecided.
Yeah.
I'm really undecided. If you would have asked me a couple months ago, I would have said that I want to get the heck out of Minnesota. But since
Well,
I've
that's
been
that's
living,
me every winter. That's every
I know,
Minnesotan every damn
I know,
winter. Where it's like, why do we live here when it's -20 outside, and you're just like, there was that one week where it was like -20 the whole week, where I didn't even leave the house because my car was just like, where the gasoline freezes. That's why whenever I people even on from like New York and stuff, they don't understand like like they talk about cold when it's like 10 degrees. It's like, that's you don't understand cold, where it's like you can barely breathe because it's just, yeah, I that gets me more angry than anything else, where people, or if you have a guest from Florida and they're like, yeah, it was 60 degrees yesterday, I had to wear a sweater and I had to be like all kept up, and I was like, okay, I literally want to drown you in the ocean right next
a
to your
little
house. I
bit.
mean I mean it's just, yeah, it is just absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, and is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to?
My team. I'll say the ladies of Crushing Limits that have been like the most supportive and amazing throughout this prep. My coach, Stephanie, and my girls Lisa and Sam, and yeah, my Crushing Limits squad.
Absolutely. I'll leave a link to all that stuff down below, and I'll leave a link to her Instagram page as well. And everyone, make sure to go and check it out. And again, buyer beware. Like I always say, you will get inspired to get off that couch and stop eating those Twinkies. But again, Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey. I really appreciate it, and we wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.